Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Interlinked podcast, the official Neo Tokyo podcast, brought to you by Shrapnel.
Brace yourself for impact, crypto gamers. I am reporting from the Sacrifice Zone. STX3 just wrapped up, and it was chock full of new features. One of those new features is the addition of weapon skin fragments. Scattered all over the map, in drawers, in boxes, on your dead opponents, there were weapon skin fragments that you could extract and then combine to create new weapon skins and bring those to the marketplace or strap them onto your favorite weapon and hop back into the Sacrifice Zone. They also added Metal, their off-chain point reward system, and some killer map updates. I know I had a blast in STX3 and am already excited for STX4. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, Playa3ull.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playa3ull. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
We are joined today by Alex, the Chief Executive Outlaw of Vendetta Games. And of course, we are also joined by my co-hosts, Jared and Ben. Alex, how are we doing today?
Hey guys, I'm doing very well, thank you. Great to have you. Great to be here. And I just noticed you guys have matching jackets. That's pretty cool. You got your own your own gear.
Yeah. So shout out Crasher, the Neo Tokyo merch team. He had along with his team done some Neo Tokyo sort of like bomber jackets. So we try and always rep them on the pod.
Nice. You know, I just had an earthquake as you were introducing me. We just had an earthquake.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So we are bringing you an earth-shattering podcast here today. But Alex, to get the ball rolling, we'd love to get an introduction for yourself, maybe cover your Web 2 background, what brought you into Web 3, and then we can deep dive Vendetta Games.
Okay, sounds good. Well, as you said, I'm Alex. I'm from a very, very small town in Canada called Chalk River, hence the name of our metaverse, Chalk River Metaverse. I'm living in Taiwan now. I've been in Asia for the last 20 plus years. Traditionally, I've been doing business here in trade and quality control. So my bread and butter is really what has been 2 companies I have in mainland China. So I kind of ping pong back and forth. And then, I got into crypto in 2016, 17, I think, as an investor. And then, a bag holder, a trader, and then, investor. And then my first Web 2 project in crypto married with my traditional business, which was quality control. So I built an app called Trust with 2 S's on VeChain. I think it was 2018. There was all the cycle in VeChain. Everything was about tagging and tracing. So that's what we did. We tagged and traced from raw material to the final box of the consumer. And we offered it to our regular clients. We didn't issue a token or anything. It was an add-on service, and that really got me into it. I mean, building a business in crypto really gets you in deep, and I got a lot of new connections. And because at that time, actually VeChain was pretty hot. A lot of the people I was around were in VeChain, and they had this competition who could build. They had a building an app competition on VeChain. So I got to be lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, to be an early investor in what became Vulcan Forge from Jamie Thompson. And in that investment, I grew into having a lot of assets in various metaverses and kind of rode that cycle of scholars and metaverses. And because I had all these assets, I thought, look, I got to do something with them. So I started a guild called Vendetta DAO. And that was where Vendetta really was born. So it was born out of this guild, try and use my assets. We built the guild up to about 20,000 scholars at the time at its peak. But as you guys probably know from that cycle, a lot of the games weren't fully cooked. or the economies, fell out within a few weeks or a month. So we found ourselves really struggling to not only keep growing, but just keep the scholars we had. So it was at that point that I had the grand idea to just do like a Wild West, very basic. I wasn't thinking Web3, just a Wild West shootout on Main Street, 1-versus-1 game. And so I did. And the idea was just to build this, simple game to add that stickiness factor to the guild and, keep it growing. But as we developed it and the first, playable version came out, the penny dropped that this is going to be way, way more than just a shootout game. And it just grew from there. It developed into this entire metaverse, and it was one of those things of inspiration. If I think back, I don't think I could do it again. But in the span of about 48 hours, 72 hours, I'd written a detailed white paper on what Vendetta Games would be, what Chalk River would be, the GDD documents, all of this very well laid out. Considering I never built a game in my life, and it just became a passion project of mine. And here we are today.
Love it. And definitely going to deep dive into that transition period, because I think there's a lot of interesting insights on what it must have been like to transition from the DAO to the game. But first, let's get the audience caught up for those who might not be familiar with Vendetta Games. What is the current state? Where does Vendetta Games live today? Sort of what state is the game in and such, that way we can get everybody caught up to the present.
Okay, well, yeah, Vendetta Games, we're kind of rebranding or trying to brand it better because, as I said, it went from Vendetta DAO Guild to Vendetta Games with the game Chalk River. So it's kind of messy. So we're now at Vendetta Games, the game's publisher. We have Chalk River, our first game that we're publishing, which is the Wild West Metaverse. We have had it open in alpha twice. During the bear market, actually, was when we were doing most of the building. We closed it in August last year for the second time to really work on it. Like the first version was out for like 2 weeks, and that was it. Like it was shit. It wasn't workable. Closed it, redid it completely. We called it Chalk River 2, and then released it, and it was playable. It was okay. We were updating it on the fly every 2 weeks for the community. So by the time we had open for about 6 months, it was in a pretty good state. But the low-hanging fruit was done. Like we were, the simple things to fix we could do, but then it needed, some time to really get into the animations, to really add some of the play, the fun factor to it. And also we wanted to improve the visuals of it because it was good, but it could have been better. So we decided to close it in September to really start working on it and keep that. I had a lot of advice from other gaming companies that said, look, it's easier to get a new person in than to have somebody play the game, not be happy with it, and bring them back. So the idea was, okay, we've kept it open long enough, let's close it and really build on it. So we've been doing that for the last 8-9 months now. We were scheduled to release it a month ago again, but we've been delayed. I was scheduled to have my next releasable build yesterday. It was delayed. We just downloaded it before I got on this call. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll have a game we can release to the community. And a pretty good, fleshed out game because, again, it's the third time we've opened it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that sort of building period over the last 9 months or so, did you bring in a larger game development team to help work on it? Were you bringing sort of new blood on the dev side?
Yeah. Well, we went through 2 dev teams. The first one was the first version. Then we set on a second dev team. They've done a very good job and brought us to basically where we are. But then about 3 months ago, we brought in another team to work hand in hand. So we had 2 different developing offices actually because we outsourced it. And over the last month, we've kind of just veered over just to that new office and have parked the other team.
And what was that process like, trying to find a team to outsource? What sort of experience was that like, sort of the pros and cons? We always try and bring it back to all the builders in Neo Tokyo. So there's a lot of people who are in that situation. So would love to have some insights for them.
Well, in the beginning, it was tough. Well, it was tough in the sense that it was the blind leading the blind, because honestly, I'd never built a game, right? So a lot of stuff and I'm not a developer myself. So a lot of the stuff was, especially early on before our team was where it is at now, because again, we started from a guild, not a game development company. So we didn't have, Fanzi, who was our lead dev on the team at the time. So it was really the blind leading the blind, being a little bit too trusting of, who was developing on it. So it was hard. The idea of outsourcing for me wasn't a problem. Actually, it's something I'm very comfortable with, being that I run a trading company. So I'm used to that method of being kind of a middleman and organize, finding the supplier, finding the customer. I think there's a lot of benefits in that. I still do. I'm not interested to build my own in-house dev team. I'm happy to have one or two or three to help make sure that, what we're getting is what we want and understand what's going on, but I don't want a big dev team. In the beginning it was difficult. Later it got better and better, and obviously, as everything does, as we got more educated, as really when I brought Fanzi on full time, he really helped out, because he knew if we were getting the wool pulled over our eyes, or he knew the questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know, right? So a lot of things I didn't even know to ask. So you need experienced devs on your team to do it.
And it sounded like it was centralizing around one of those teams now. Is that because of lack of complexity of managing multiple teams? Was there some things falling between the cracks in between the teams? Would love to get a little bit more meat on the bone there. To have two separate teams, you can have too many cooks in the kitchen, which is never a good thing. So that was one issue. But moreover, you didn't need that many, right? One team is enough. You can scale up or scale down as you need with them, but you can only have so many people working on the same thing, and then it just becomes too spread out, and nobody's really responsible for what they need. So I think, and I may be wrong, but I feel that having too many devs doesn't like 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 in development, right? So that's kind of where we didn't need these two teams. One team can do pretty much as much as the two of them, and actually a better job. And it's easier to manage.
Let's talk a little bit about lore. I would love to dig into just all the richness that's in the ecosystem. Talk us through all that, please.
The lore in the sense of the storyline of each character, or just like the general what the place is?
Yes.
Both. Okay. The lore of each character, we have 7 characters already as NFTs that have, they're your classic, every Wild West movie you've watched, those characters are there. So we have, the gunslinger, we have the gambler, we have the ex-Civil War, soldier who's now become a bit of an outlaw. We've got the girl who was a stripper / hooker in the brothel, who's now a character. So we have every basic cowboy character in a movie. We have them in there, and then they're over this giant. It's 100 square kilometer metaverse, so it's huge. That has the desert kind of flatlands, and the badlands. We've got the north where it's very heavily forested, and then even mountainous where we've just added a snowy area to it. And then it comes down to like a watery, swampy area. It's and within those we have different storyline quests. We're trying to do it as general as we can, but also certain quests just for the characters. So they're character specific. So you have these general quests, which again it's just a dream to write. One of them is defend the town, where you've ridden into a town and they've been attacked, and you need to help them defend against this onslaught of outlaws, right? Or helping out on the frontier, where you help the same thing, like the train station's coming through. A farmer is being, farmers are being killed and their land is being stolen, and you need to defend this one single mother whose husband was killed in the war. against a land baron coming in. So all of these classic, it's a wonderful chance to write little storylines for every kind of Western movie if you watch them. Along the way. It's really a joy.
What do you think about that really resonates with people? You think it's like the sense of exploration of like, going west and finding your path, or what?
Honestly, it might not be the right thing to say. It might not be the right answer, but this game really is built for me. It's a bit selfish to say, but as I started out, building this one-on-one shootout on Main Street because I wanted to play that game, and then it's become a passion project for me. And it's basically just what I do now. Like I put management in place in my companies in China, and I just build this game, and I just build it for things that I want to do. Like I really like the lore or the Wild West theme. I've got a 24-year-old son named Wyatt, because I've loved that, since I was a kid. I love the chance that I can put on a cowboy hat and it doesn't have to be Halloween, right? So I've kind of created this Wild West theme for myself. And I don't know. I mean, people are either going to love it or hate it. I think people who like the Wild West, they love it. They love it just probably for the same reasons I do. I like that time I like that kind of time of exploration. It was, development of a new country right after a civil war. It was a bit lawless. It's just an amazing time, and it's close enough in history that it's really well documented. Like you can, and there's still stuff like if you go and Google the gun that Wyatt Earp used in the OK Corral, you can buy it. Like it's on sale. It's Sotheby's. So there's stuff that from that time because it's close enough that you can still get your hands on, which I think is really cool.
I love how it has like an international fascination as well. You can obviously see in the United States there's like a big obsession with samurai as well as cowboys, but if you go to Japan there's actually still that huge obsession with cowboys, and where we'll kind of get obsessed with samurai lore, they'll get really, really into like sort of the Western lore. So it's cool that it has this international appeal even though it was such a geographically isolated sort of time period.
Yeah, it's also funny too. I didn't realize, because for me I have my picture of what is a cowboy and what is a Wild West. But living in Asia, I've been here, for 20 years, and I didn't really thought about or talk to other people about it, especially younger generation people. But when I started this project, and I went to a few conferences in Vietnam and around, and I started talking about this to, other Asian people, especially younger ones, I got a very rude awakening of what other people's vision of cowboys are. So you have like my vision of, Kevin Costner, proper cowboy, or, Kurt Russell. But a lot of people here, it's Woody from Toy Story, or it's like Back to the Future when Michael J. Fox comes out with a colorful kind of 1950s cowboy. That's the picture that goes through some people's brain when you say cowboy.
Oh, that's great! Wow, so you'll have to work in weapon skins for all those different ideas.
I was blown away, honestly. When I mentioned to somebody and they were telling me like cowboy, and like the picture in their brain was Woody from Toy Story. It blew me away. I'd never even thought of that as a cowboy.
That's really interesting. I wanted to bring it back a little bit and talk about some of the different gameplay aspects. I know that you're going to have horse breeding, and I think that is going to add a really interesting layer to this. Whereas it's not just this or just that. Can you kind of talk about how that integrates into the game and how the horse NFTs are going to be implemented and some of the loop with just the breeding aspect of it?
Yeah, the breeding's great. It's so much fun. It was a blast to design. When we do this, it's kind of a team effort and also a community effort where people throw out ideas, and we try to. If they're good ideas, we implement them. Right. There's some things I didn't think of, but for the breeding, so the premise is we have the Genesis steeds, right? The first horses that we sell. There's 2,000 and change of these horses, and they never die. Right. They're like every other game, every other NFT. They're there forever, but you can breed them. And the offspring have a life cycle of X number of gaming hours. So you can, you'll breed them. They'll get they'll get certain attributes from from the parents, and then you're going to play it, and it's not like 10 hours. It's 50 or it's a good number of hours. So you're going to level up this horse. You're going to get into it. It's going to be your pet. There's a bonding experience with it. So there's loyalty to it and to you. So you're not going to want to let it die, obviously. So at the end of its life cycle, you have the choice to let it die, but it's converted into like a life potion that you can give to somebody else, sell to somebody else, and they can revive or restart the clock on their bred horse, or you can wait and buy it from somebody else. So basically, a horse has to die for a horse to be revived, right? To be revived. So I think this is, first of all, it will control the population, so we don't just have endless numbers of horses, and I think it adds another interesting kind of economy around it, right? I mean, horses. Some people are just going to let their horses die off, and they're going to sell these potions, and it's the only way you can get them is for a horse to go through its life cycle. And then the idea of it is, there's a fee, right? You have to go to a stable, which also ties into our gamified staking. So you have to go to a stable to breed the horses. The mare, the owner of the female horse, pays the fee to the stud, the owner of the male horse, right? He earns the fee, but the NFT offspring goes to the wallet of the female. So again, similar to a real life breeding of horses, right? You get a stud fee, and the owner of the mare gets the horse in their wallet. Now you could own both if you want, right? And then you don't have to worry about this, but you can also just basically breed out your stud, right? So your stud, you could have a legendary horse. There's only I think it's only 6 or 8 legendary horses. And if you breed with a legendary horse, there's a chance. It's a smaller chance, but there's a chance that the offspring will end up being the breed or the attributes of the legendary horse. So you could theoretically charge a good fee to somebody to stud out your horse, or if it's a mare as well.
I love the detailed focus on the mechanics. I actually grew up on a horse farm where they did quite a bit of breeding, but I'm severely allergic to horses, so this is a breeding I can actually get behind. I get all the good without the allergy attack.
Right.
So is the supply going to be dictated by those mechanics around breeding then? Will there be troughs of horses that are released and sold, or only the horses that have been released, the original breeding stock? How's this sort of the supply side handled?
It's a long-term thing, so we don't have it figured out yet, right? But the theory behind it is, again, it's the horses we sell at the beginning, the Genesis horses, are the only ones that live forever, and the offspring, right? They have the life cycle. But you should be able to get 2 or 3 generations down before they die off, right? So there's going to be a stud that's an offspring that is going to be worth reviving, right? You're not going to want them to die off. So there's going to be, hopefully, ideally, a bit of FOMO there of, not wanting your horse to die off, or in somebody is going to be, a seller of, these potions. That's going to be their business. There's so many things around it. We also were discussing maybe having breeding seasons. If we need population control, we can have breeding seasons. There's also, it's not 100% confirmed, but we're thinking of doing we're trying to replicate a real life thing, even with the hours, right? X hour equals how many years old, right? Equals how many years. So we're also trying to we're thinking of, okay, you have to have, let's say, a 4-year-old horse to even breed. And then it can only breed until it's, 6 or 7 years old, and then it can't breed again. So right, there's a lot of fun ways we can play with it, and we don't feel bad, or there's no negativity in the offspring dying off, because you're not really buying them, right? We can't kill off the NFT you buy, right? The Genesis NFT, but an offspring, fair dues, right? And you know what you're getting into. It's not costing you a lot of money, so we can play with that, and it's not really offside to the player, right, to do that.
Yeah, I love how well thought out that dynamic is, and I'm probably bullish on sort of NPC attachment. I think you can think of so many examples between Dogmeat from Fallout or Roach from The Witcher, where people really do fall in love with these animal companions.
Yeah.
If there was a choice between them dying or buying one of these love potions, you might feel like, hey, I got to buy this for my boy.
Yeah. And also there's going to be loyalty to it. So when you feed it, as you take care of it, as you groom it, there's the bonding factor, and the horse is more loyal. So for example, if you're running down a steeper hill, it won't, it'll just run. If you want to go through water, it'll just go. It won't, stutter for a second. If you get knocked off your horse, it won't run away. You have to try, you don't have to reset. So there, we can have it so if you fall off your horse, or if you get off your horse and don't tie it up, or if somebody lets it go, or for whatever reason it can run off, you gotta wait for 5 minutes for your horse to come back, or go back to your kind of home base to get your horse. Right? There's a lot of things we can play with the loyalty factor. Again, it's all in beta, so we're going to introduce them, and for sure we're going to change them. Right? I mean, the theory is great, but once we start playing it, we're going to have to adjust it.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Introducing Creo Engine, a next-level Web3 gaming ecosystem that connects gamers and developers in a Web3 gaming hub. Hop on their Creo Play platform to check out current and upcoming titles like Evermore Nights, Slime Haven, Creonia Metaverse, and Arcade Fest. The team has earned the endorsement of the chairman of Indonesia's People Consultative Assembly and earned a 10 out of 10 from Hackin on their cross-chain bridge audit. Check all this out and more on creoengine.com.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's one of the beautiful things about these sort of Web3 games, is that they're a living, breathing economy. I know you guys have really well thought out NFT mechanics around other NFTs in the ecosystem. I know you guys have a cool approach to land, the things that you can build in sort of this OK Corral universe. So maybe go into some of the other big NFTs in the ecosystem, and we can dive into some of the mechanics around there as well.
Yeah, again, I love it. This is it's so much fun to build this, and just because we can just spin off ideas and basically create whatever we like, right? I mean, there's no holds barred, right? It's if we can dream it, we can build it. So one of the things is the gamified staking, which doesn't really involve. It kind of involves NFTs, but basically I think we should go to the economy first. So the economy of it is risk-fi, 100% risk-fi. So when you don't play to earn, it's not X number of hours equals X number of VDT. It's you call somebody out for a shootout, you put up 1 VDT, they put up 1 VDT, the winner takes the bulk of it. I say the bulk of it because, there's different NFTs you own that will get a little percentage, right? But the winner takes like 75%, right? And 25% is separated through other NFTs or, Frontier Pass holders, stuff like that. And the loser walks away with some kind of buff in-game item. So, they have a better chance the next time. And you both get XP, which you need. You can only get XP by doing these risk-fi games, and you need XP to upgrade your characters or upgrade your horses. So there's a loop there. There's a reason why you'd want it risk-fi, right? And then, so the reason why I say this is because it's not deflationary, right? We're not just, you're playing and giving out tokens. And with the staking as well. So the gamified staking, you go into a town, you stake your tokens into a bank, a gun shop, a general store, a stable, whichever. And when your tokens are staked in that business, you run the business for the time that your tokens are there. So any business that goes through there, you earn the profits, right? So people are coming in to buy guns, ammo, going to breed their horses in the stable. You get a cut of all those fees. And then let's say it runs for 7 days. After the 7 days, there's a cool down period of 24 to 48 hours. And during that time, people are going to come and try to shoot to kill. They're going to try and kill to earn. So they're going to try and take over your shop, and you have to defend it. You can defend it by yourself. You can defend it with your friends, right? Ideally, you have a guild, right? You and your buddies are defending it together. You could defend it with your NFTs, right? Your character NFTs that you allocate is NPCs to help defend. So there's different ways to do it. If you lose, then you take your VDT that you staked. You take your profits that you earned, which are in-game profits. So again, we're not flooding the market with extra VDT. It's people spending their own VDT, and you go home, and they've taken over your business, and it's their chance to run it. Where it gets interesting is if you successfully defend the business. If you successfully defend it, you can just run it again, or you have the option to upgrade it, upgrading by putting in more VDT. So again, deflationary. But at the same time, you need more people to defend it. So you either need another NFT to help you defend it, or you and your buddy have to defend it together, but you need more people. And it also, in turn, more people to attack you, right? It can't be some lone ranger coming to attack your building. If it's bigger, you need more people to defend it, and it requires more people to attack it. And the reason why you want to upgrade it is because then you can offer more items, right? Better items. If it's a stable, instead of breeding, 2 pairs of horses at a time, you can breed 4, right? If it's a gun shop, then you have a higher level NFTs you could sell. So there's again incentives to upgrade the shop. That's on a small scale. On a larger scale, ideally you and your buddies, you and your guild, you go and you stake out a whole town, right? So you guys basically run the town, you upgrade the town together, and as you upgrade the town, then you get better buildings as well. So you can upgrade the town to, eventually get the hotel in there, the bank. Finally, the train station can run through, so you have a train station. So as you upgrade the town, it becomes better it becomes more items, stronger, more buildings, and more reason for people to want to come into your town. Put money in your bank, for example, because it's a bigger bank, so it'll have different staking rewards. There's a lot of mechanics behind it. I can go on forever and ever. I don't want to bore people, but there's parts in the game where one town is your kind of home base, so you can't be killed in that town. You can store your loot in that town, but if you go out on missions into the frontier and you get killed in the frontier, then you lose anything that was on your person, right? So there's reasons why you want to have a town close to where you want to. There's reasons why people want to go to that town and why you want to upgrade that town.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the long form podcast is we really felt that was the niche that's missing in our space, where it can be very clickbaity or very short form content seems to be very dominant. So we wanted at least a place where you could come and get all the details and actually get everything flushed out. So that's great. Feel free to dive into any of the nitty gritty details, because that's what we're here for.
All right. One other form of staking we have is, so that was Kill to Earn. We call it Kill to Earn, where you run the business. Another one is RanchFi. And RanchFi is a lot of fun. Where instead of staking out a business, it's actually more classic inflationary staking. Instead of you go and it's just classic VDT staking where you put in X amount and your interest, right? So it's a little bit inflationary. But let's say you put in 100 VDT and your interest is 1 VDT, for example, or 10,000 VDT. It's 100 VDT. Those 100 VDT are shown as cows, right? Cattle in the game, and you need to protect them for the 7 days, right? That they're staked. So this is interest. If you protect them, you get 100% of your interest, right, for the 7 days. And again, we're encouraging. It's a Wild West. You want gangs, you want groups, you want guilds. So we're encouraging group play here, or people who just want to spend. There's a lot of different people that you're playing for, right? Maybe I just want to buy a bunch of NFTs. You can do that too, and allocate your NFTs as NPCs to protect your cattle. Some people they're only gonna want to go and steal cattle, which is also fun. So they steal your cattle, and they sell them. You still keep your VDT that you staked. You still get your interest, but you only get 80% of your interest. They've stolen 20% of your interest, which I think is a blast and also a lot of fun. So we'll see. We'll see if it works. The idea is good. I'm sure there's ways to cheat it, and we might have to revise it a bit, but we're going to try.
I wanted to see if you could go into a little bit more on the VDT and all the different utility for it, and any staking rewards, and a little bit of the tokenomics behind it as well.
Okay. Well, the staking rewards I just kind of covered, right? The gamified staking within the town and within the RanchFi. You're going to use it in game to riskfi, right? So to play any of we call them side games. So the shootout on Main Street, defend the town, Canyon Run, where you're racing your horses, Last Man Standing. What else do we have? Last Man Standing, and then poker, right? We have in the saloon we have poker and we have blackjack. So these are the basic side games that you have to play those in order to get experience points which in turn you need to upgrade your characters and or your horses to improve your chances in the risk fi and also just in the game itself, right? And then so that's going to cost VDT, or you're going to have to own VDT to do that. And then there's like storyline quests, which are very simple. You go to an NPC and he sends you on a mission. These are free. They don't cost VDT. They cost gold dust. And gold dust is an in-game currency that's not a blockchain currency. It's just like your basic Web 2 currency. And that's kind of the grind to earn currency. So you get gold dust for pretty much everything. And you can use that to buy basic in-game low-tier items, right? So your basic weapons, your basic backpack, your basic hat, ammo, right? Just things that you're going to want to play and you don't want the game to feel too spendy, right? But in turn, those things can be lost. So as I just mentioned, if you're out running around the frontier and you've got these gold dust purchased items and somebody kills you, they'll steal what you have on your person if it's a gold dust item, because those aren't NFTs. Whereas with VDT, you can buy higher tier items, or you can also convert items that you got for gold dust to an NFT by using VDT. If you get shot out in the wild and killed in the wild, you don't lose your VDT, you don't lose your NFTs, right? These are things you paid for. So that's that's so the circular economy here is that you're going to want to play the side games in order to upgrade your character, to do better in the missions and the storyline chapters, to proceed in the storyline of the game, and also to win more and more risk fi games.
Yeah, and it also seems like you're sort of going back to your roots too with the guilds. Are you going to have any sort of organized guilds throughout it, or are you just going to let it sort of organically grow? The cattle stealers are going to be all together, and then the saloon owners might have their own guild. What's your vision for that?
I hadn't thought of organizing our own guilds. That's a good idea. I think people are going to create their own guilds as they run towns, right? We could. I haven't thought about that. That's a good idea. It's something I'd want to brainstorm and think about. But we encourage guilds, right? We encourage team play. We will have leaderboards for different teams, whether they're called guilds or gangs or just teams of whatever. There's going to be leaderboards for them. There'll be a special badge for them. We're going to try and we really want to encourage that. We've partnered with a project called Shards. Have you guys heard of Shards? It's a really cool project in Web3 that basically lets you tokenize your guilds in your game. So people can buy and sell shares of these in-game teams. And the reason why they would do that is because these teams have the option to share their rewards with their stakeholders. And why would they do that? Because people buy and sell their shares and they make it on that. So there's another economy there that we've added through them. It's definitely a guild-friendly, team-friendly game, and that's what we want to encourage.
Yeah, I love it. So many opportunities now for other companies to come in and hyper specialize in just one aspect, and then being able to onboard that into your game, offers a lot of advantages instead of having to build everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Now, I know all the Vendetta Games community is going to be super stoked for that playthrough. Obviously, the audience, I'm stoked for being able to get my hands on the game. Now, of all the features that we've been talking about getting flushed out, what's going to be available in this next playtest?
None of those features. In the next, really, it sounds bad, but there's a lot going on in this next playtest, because not only have we refactored the whole metaverse. So we've upped the level. It's beautiful right now. We've redone all the animations for the characters. And most importantly, we've moved from Polygon and Elysium to Immutable X. So the first thing is just connecting up to Immutable X and running that before we can do any of that. The features are going to be, you can go in and play. There's going to be Shootout on Main Street, which we already had. Cowboys versus Zombies, very limited poker. Poker is the next thing that I want to focus on. because we kind of slapped. To be honest, it's just slapped in there right now. It's not proper. Sit down. You see the guy at the table, visually appealing poker. So yeah, and then there'll be a couple storyline quests. But really, this next version is more so to test the new, IMX, and also make sure we've done what we wanted to do in the upgrades from the last one. So the staking is not going to be there. Even crafting. So another part of the game obviously is crafting, where you add different items together to build a gun or whatever. We've just done an NFT loot free mint loot boxes a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, and we've opened them and people have their loot now. So we're going to open crafting, but because we can't do it yet in game, and even some of that staking stuff, we'll do it probably out of the game before we can do it in the game to make sure the mechanics work and it's quicker to develop that way. So for example, hopefully next Thursday, which I haven't announced yet. I don't like announcing because every time I announce it, it's delayed by a couple of days, but it's already been delayed. So hopefully on Thursday, crafting will be live on our website, so people can take their loot and start crafting their guns and their hats, and those will be available to play in game. And then within the next couple of months, we'll implement that into the game. And we need to implement those into the game before we do the game-fied staking, or else nobody's going to want to. Right? If you can't craft it at the blacksmith shop, nobody's going to want to stake out the blacksmith shop. There's no revenue there. If you can't do the in-game breeding, nobody's going to want to stake out in the stable. So some buildings will stake out, will be able to stake earlier than others, right? Because it'll be easier to implement those. Buying guns in the game will be pretty quick, right? So the gun shop, you'll be able to stake out much earlier than the stable, for example. And we're also opening in the next week or so our first staking pool, which is not in game, but the idea is you stake VDT for NFTs. So if you follow our socials, you may have seen this. So yeah, you're going to stake 3,000 VDT, which is like one slot. There's only a limited number of slots per pool. And then for staking that VDT, you have a chance of getting a horse or a few other items, but the creme de la creme is getting the horse, right? And it'll be a Genesis horse, and horses haven't even gone for sale yet. So it'll be a pretty exciting thing for the people who get the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. No, a lot to be excited about there. I'd love to get a bit of your opinion on what attracted you to the IMX ecosystem. What sort of functionality was that bringing for the community that you had thought would be a good fit for what you're building?
IMX, well, for gaming, they're great, right? And they were already well known last cycle for gaming. And this cycle, now they have the immutable ZKVM. So there's IMX, which is classic immutable, and now there's immutable ZKVM, which you can't really use the term IMX for. It's the same company, same thing, but it's their new chain. And immutable ZKVM, it's free. There's no gas fees, which it's subsidied by them. And even if at some point they don't subsidize it, which I'm sure they can't do it forever. Actually, they can because they earn money off of us anyway, of the people that are on there. So they should be able to. But we can subsidize it because the gas fees are like next to nothing. It's super cheap. So I think that's a game changer. Like any other chain, I mean, there's a few that do it, like Myria does it as well. But there's a few chains that are free. But if you have to pay gas fees, even if it's like fractions of a cent, I think it's a real turnoff. So having that is like the game changer for me. It'd be hard for me to move to a chain that has gas fees, I think. And the passport. They've done a really good job with the passport. People can sign up with their Google account, with their Facebook account. And if you use the passport, again, everything's free. And you don't really know, like you're not, in the middle of the game and then you got to click confirm. Like it's all seamless. It interacts with the blockchain. You don't really know what's going on. You don't even have to know that you're using the blockchain. And again, I think that is essential for, to grow, to expand. Like you and I might be used to MetaMask and, all these other wallets, but anybody that's just a gamer or not, I mean, even I know a lot of people in crypto that don't even use MetaMask. I mean, they're still just exchanges. So it just lowers the barrier of entry.
I totally agree. And at the end of the day, you want the technology layer of gaming to be abstracted away from the gamer in a lot of ways. I mean, you think about when multiplayer came onto the scene, obviously there's a server that needs to be rented out, most likely in Amazon, in order for that to take place. Could you imagine if every time you booted up into a Call of Duty match, you got a little pop-up that said, okay, can you pay your few fractions of a cent to Amazon in order to access this, multiplayer server? So it's really cool to see that more and more companies are realizing that and bringing in these sort of gasless techs, whether it's, subsidized by the game, which or the infrastructure company, which we've obviously seen both in traditional gaming.
Yeah. I think it's a no-brainer. Like, I think there's no way a game can really blow up if people are, clicking confirm every time they want to transact with the blockchain in the game, right? I mean, it wouldn't work. I think I just saw a meme of that recently, actually, on Twitter, where they were, did it, click confirm, and then moves for 2 seconds, click confirm.
And the funny thing is, once they're bought in and they're into the game and then they're willing to go through more steps, I think of Pal World gripped me. And it wouldn't have gripped me if it wasn't so easy to play in the first place. But then when I was like, okay, I've got to rent a server in order to be able to play with my friends in this persistent universe. Okay, this is fun enough. I'll go through the steps and Google it and figure it out. So as long as there's that carrot at the end of the stick, but you try and onboard people into Web3 when they walk in the door, it's a tough sell.
Yeah. Well, even like our game also is free to play, where you can, you sign in, there's 2 free characters that aren't NFTs that you can use. There's going to be a free donkey that you can ride, right? So you don't have to have a horse, you have a donkey. And then you can just grind, like theoretically, you could just grind for gold dust. Play the storyline chapters. It won't be as much fun, but all those side games you can't play, right? None of the risk-fi, none of the gamified staking. So I mean, it wouldn't be fun. Like, I'm sure people, and then, I mean, look, if you really don't want to spend a penny, for me, what I would do, I would go in for free and I'd go rustle up some cattle, steal some cattle, and get my first free VDT that way. I think that would probably be the lowest level fruit if you just want to play to earn, right, in your classic play to earn game.
Yeah, and it makes a very fun dynamic from my perspective of having these, now free-to-play players who are forming this almost horde of people who are incentivized to go and rustle up your cattle is a fun dynamic. I mean, as you invest in your weapons and everything, you do want that sort of like horde at the gate that keeps that pressure on and makes you want to continue to progress.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely have to make adjustments to it, but I think the premise is there. I think it's going to be fun to experiment with. And I think the key is, look, even if you lose, you don't lose anything, right? You lose 20% of your interest, which isn't, right? You've lost nothing. You keep your money, you still get 80% of your interest.
Well, everybody should definitely watch out for their cattle, because we're coming for it. But Alex, I know we're getting close to time here. Just kind of wanted to open up the mic and open up the floor for you to touch on anything that we have not yet covered, but you think that we should.
I think we've covered everything. I mean, it's best when you ask questions because it brings stuff out. A lot of stuff for me is just second nature. I don't even think of it unless it's the question is asked. But yeah, I think I've mentioned everything. The things that are on the table now. I mean, as I mentioned, we have crafting coming up very soon. We have staking coming up again in the next 2 weeks, which, if I was interested in the ecosystem, like, I think it's a very good staking program. You stake 3,000 VDT, means you get it back, right? You're not spending anything, and you have a high chance of getting a horse out of it. And it's a Genesis horse, so it lives forever. I think the horses are going to be very valuable, so it's definitely worth staking for. If I want to, shill the token. It's really low price, really low market cap, really good tokenomics. Yeah, I don't know what else. I think I've said it all.
I love it. Well, definitely appreciate you coming on and diving into all the details. We'll certainly be following along with great interest. I'm excited to get my hands on the game and play. We'll have to have you back on in the future to, get to talk about how everything works once it goes live. As well as we didn't get a chance to look out too far into the future. I know you guys have been teasing on the website the Three Kingdoms, Pirates. You guys have formed a triangle of some of the most exciting sort of lore. So very excited to see what you guys end up doing with those projects as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited about them. They're farther out now. For me, the passion project is Chalk River. I want to get that done and done quite well. But second, definitely a close second, is the Three Kingdoms for me personally, because it's a story I love. I think they're Asian cowboys. It's a similar premise. It's a similar time. In the creation of a country, similar. You have these very cool heroes and outlaws. So I'm really excited to do that one. And then James, who's the guy behind all of our beautiful artworks that you see, is super into the pirates. So that's his. That will be his passion project. And they'll all use VDT. So it's just going to add to the, to the ecosystem. It's all going to be under the same house.
Oh, I love it. No, that's some of the most exciting sort of lore IP out there. So I'm a big fan of that Warring Kingdoms phase as well. Total War did sort of a great game around that, which I've sunk way too many hours playing the different factions in that sort of piece of history. But want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up on the top of the hour. So Alex, really appreciate you coming in today to share all there is about Vendetta Games and what you've been working on lately. So really appreciate it. And Jared and Ben, absolute pleasure of my week being here every week with you guys. So again, really appreciate all of y'all's time.
Thank you guys. My pleasure. I'll come on anytime. I really enjoy it. I can talk about my game forever. So anytime you want me on.
We'll definitely have you back, Alex, 100%.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Alex.
Cheers. Good night.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody. And to the audience, we will be back next week with another episode of Interlinked. Wishing everyone good fortune in their crypto journey. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.